In a world where there's over 100,000 board games, it only takes a special few to make a difference. Let's dive into my top 10 games that made me fall in love with the hobby. Welcome everybody to the Just Play podcast with me, your host JP, and welcome to the channel and podcast if you're here. If you're new to the show, thank you very much. I can't wait to kind of have you here on this journey. This is episode 1, so very, very much at the start of it all. And if you're returning from the Whose Turn Is It Anyway podcast, thank you so much for jumping over and keeping me company while I talk about the usual things that you're used to me to talk about, to be honest. But no, really, really great to kind of have you join in the Just Play fun as well. So this is the first segment called Pull Up a Chair, and generally I want to kind of enhance this segment, and basically this is where I need your help, listeners and viewers. I basically need your engagement. I need you to kind of help me basically give me questions to answer, get engaged and start asking, what your favorite games are or what you like about the hobby. And I think in particular against this episode, I've kind of said I'm going to go through the top 10 games that made me fall in love with the hobby. So I want to hear about your games. I want to hear about what you enjoyed and what kind of helped you get to the place in the hobby space that you're in today. So please, in the comments below, please get in touch, or if you're on our socials and Facebook and Instagram, then do the same stuff. We love it. I just want to get engaged with stuff like that. So let's move on to the next segment then. So the next segment is called Just Played. So this is where I'm going to basically talk about games. One of my favourite segments, because I can talk about games till the cows come home. But yeah, I'm going to talk about a couple of games in this segment, and I'm going to start by sharing the screen, which is kind of weird for me. If anyone who's kind of caught the episode 0 primer episode will know that I mainly have been doing audio only podcasts, and it probably shows. So bear with me as I kind of transition to this kind of visual media, which I'm not completely used to at all. So hopefully after a few episodes it will kind of get normal. But hey, look, as if by magic, screen sharing is a thing. So the first game I want to talk about and Just Played is Eternal Decks. And I mentioned this in episode 0 that I've been playing it fairly recently. And Eternal Decks is a game from publisher Tricktakers Games. And it's a Japanese game, and basically it's really rare. It's so hard to get hold of Eternal Decks in the UK, and every now and then a rare opportunity comes where a UK stockist happens to have it, and you pick it up and it just right place, right time, and finally it's in your hands. Now Eternal Decks, I first heard of this game when I went to Full Board Gaming down in Torquay. And if you haven't been to that convention, fully recommend it. It's brilliant. And we'll probably talk about that on another episode or one that's coming up. But yeah, I managed to see a couple of people or group of people playing this game. And you'll see, if you haven't seen what this game looks like, you can't help but look at the board and go, what is going on? What is it all about? Because it just looks like nothing else. And I'm quite pleased to say it plays like nothing else as well, in my play experience anyway. So what is Eternal Decks? What is it about? Well, thematically, I'm going to try and string this together. Like some games will kind of put some themes together. You know the ones I'm talking about. But generally, you're kind of like adventurers, all grouped together to explore this world. And basically, you're trying to wake up the Eternals to kind of help you progress through these various different stages. And in the rule book, it does a great job of looking like kind of a cone that kind of goes down, a bit like Dante's Inferno. Layers of hell, and it kind of goes all these kind of layers all the way down to this big dragon egg, of which you want to kind of wake the dragon up for reasons I actually don't know. I'll be honest with you. And each kind of layer is a stage in the game. So you start with stage A, and you go to B, then C, then D, etc., etc. And caveat: I've not played all the stages. I've only done A, and I've got plenty more of the game to do. So I'm not doing a full review here. I'm just kind of giving you my play experience experience and what I kind of think of the game so far. So yeah, I'm going to jump into some of the pictures, because let's show this game off. And let's jump into this one first. And here we go. So basically, you're playing a cooperative game. It's a game where you'll have a deck of cards each, and that's kind of what these cards here. You've got red, blue, green, and yellow, and each deck will have the numbers 1 to 5 in them. So that's pretty much it. And you'll shuffle them and draw 3. And now, as it's a co-op game, it's also a limited communication kind of game. So you cannot tell people what you have in your hand. You can't say, hey, I've got a red 3, or I've got a 4. So do you have a 5? No, you can't answer those kind of questions. But you do have these kind of discs, and I think they're kind of shown here actually. You have these communication discs that you can put down onto the board, which basically are telling people, hey, I want to go here, or I want to do this particular thing. So yes, that's kind of how you communicate indirectly. But jumping back out, and basically let's jump to another picture, and let's go here. I'll show you the board. The board kind of looks like this. Anything that kind of within that squiggly line is the board. And the board actually isn't a board. The board is a really nice kind of silky material. And you basically, when you pop the box, you'll unravel this cloth, and you'll lay that out onto your table, and it looks and feels amazing. I mean, I have to say the production value in this game is brilliant. And when you first look at it, you go, what the hell is going on? What is this all about? How does this work? But generally, the game is, you win the game by collecting stars, and you get enough stars to trigger the stage achievement, and that can differ in different stages. We'll add different puzzles and different layers and complexity kind of thing as you go, but that's how you win. So you basically get to that point, but you lose in a few different ways. You'll lose when any one of your team runs out of cards. So if you have to draw a card and you can't because you ran out, you all lose. Your life force is your cards. So you kind of have to work together to keep yourselves getting more cards and more decks of cards, and I'll explain how that happens in a minute. So that's one way that you lose. Another way that you lose is down here in the river. You've got these 3 wild cards. Whenever they're taken and you fill up the river again, it's game over. It's done. So you've kind of basically wasted too much as you've been going around. So how do you do it? Well, what's the point of the game? What are we trying to do? So the middle of the board here is the main section that you'll be interacting with, and each row kind of has a kind of a condition card here, which will basically kind of highlight what the restrictions are and how you will play cards into that row. So this one example here, it says you need to do it in ascending order, so you've got a 1 to 9. And this one might be descending, this one might be something else altogether. And this is kind of where the puzzle is, but you cannot put the same number or the same colour down next to each other either. That's the kind of a generic rule across the map. And these 9 cards here are the Eternals. So the Eternals are these mythical creatures like the Medusa or Vampire or the Phoenix or whatever. And the rub here is that each of these Eternals has a deck of cards sat underneath it, and basically mixed up of different colours and numbers. And that's very important because you might be hunting lower numbers or specific colours, and you start with, let's say, red cards, but you'll end up having yellows and some purples and some cards that are multicoloured as well, which is very, very useful. Now you'll get the deck of cards. Whoever places the last card next to the Eternal, you can pick from that row. So you get the deck of cards, which is great. I can keep going, but the Eternal goes into this top row here, and it goes kind of active. It wakes up. Now this Eternal gives you basically it gives you a curse, and the curse might be you can't play 1s in this area, or you can't to the field, and you can't play 6s or 5s or this, that, and the other. So the more Eternals that you wake up, and you wake them up too quickly, you end up with a hell of a lot of restrictions that you've got to deal with, which then might mean you're having to burn cards into the river, which is pushing the one of the end game conditions. So what do you do about that? Well, this is where the gems come in, which is this little section here. So you will use cards to craft gems, and basically put gems as an offering to the Eternal to basically say, hey, go away, I don't want your curse anymore. And that's kind of one of the core actions in the game. When you craft gems, all of the cards crafted go into the river. So that's also something to kind of watch out, because you do too much of it, it's all going to flood the river and again push the end game condition. But one of the things is when your river fills up with at least 5 cards, you'll get to pick up one of these wild cards, which can be any color and any number. And as you can imagine, already getting you out of some binds as you go. One of the things I didn't mention is that the Eternals will basically offer a power as well, and will help you basically do different things in the game. So sometimes you might want to do certain powers before others, just depending on what's happening. One of the actions that you can also do is you can gift someone a card. So if they're really struggling, and they'll let you know, it's usually the case. You spend a life, you've got 3 here, and you give a card from your hand. So if you've got plenty and the other player doesn't have one, you can do that. And it helps to keep them in the game longer, even if they need 2 more turns, for example, to get their own deck from an Eternal. So that's pretty much the game. I mean, I'm probably describing Stage A. In Stage B, which is called Ghost Town, it does a lot more, and it replaces a lot of this stuff up here. And then you have to get keys as well. I'm not going to spend all day explaining Eternal decks, but I adored this game. My first play of this game was, this is just something so unique and so different. I had to talk about it. And, I got my family playing this as well. And this is one of the advantages of this game. It's not super complex. I think the rulebook takes a few reads to get it kind of in your head what you're trying to do, but once you get it down and you get that first play done, like I got my 11-year-old son and my 15-year-old daughter and my wife playing this, and we actually had a blast. We had a great time, and I can't wait for us to kind of go through the stages and see how far we can get. But yeah, I mean, that's Eternal Decks, guys. I think I recommend this. I think it's a cracking little game. Weight's just under mid-weight as well, and it's quite kind of chill, but yeah, puzzly, very puzzly, and yeah, definitely recommend it. Okay, so on to the next game, which is Euphoria, Build a Better Dystopia. So Euphoria is a game from Jamie Stegmaier and Alice Stone, as it says there, published by Stonemaier Games. And Stonemaier were great in basically giving us a copy to check out. So thank you, Jamie and team, for that. The copy was gifted to the Whose Turn Is It Anyway podcast, which is what I was originally from. And I wanted to get this talked about and basically just to kind of explore it. And I was keen to do it because I don't want to just talk about all the new games. I don't want to talk about all the new hotness all the time. I want to, go back to some of the golden oldies. And as you can see here, 2013, this came out 13 years ago. So we had a kind of a quick game, and we jumped straight into it. So the theme around Euphoria, as it says there, build a better dystopia, is exactly what it is. You're kind of building the dystopian future in this city. And the premise is that you're trying to work with your workers to help you achieve your kind of ambitions and goals. And your goals might be to enhance the dystopian hell for others, for your own personal benefit, because, those in dystopia, the ones at the top tend to benefit the most, or you're trying to break free from that. And the workers that are helping you are represented by dice. So I'm going to jump to this particular picture. So you've got these dice here that have different pips. I mean, they're D6s, 1 to 6 dice of different colours there, different player colours. And the dice are your workers. So they're placed out onto the board. They're there to do different actions. But the kind of key mechanic that I think is quite unique in this game is that you have like a collective intelligence. So once your workers get more and more intelligent, which can happen through various different mechanisms in the game, they get better. They'll give you more resources and they'll give you more things. But the more intelligent they get, the more they realize they're in a dystopian hell, and they go, nah, I've had enough of this. I'm out, and you'll lose them. And how the game handles that, which is quite simple and quite clever. I forget the number specifically. I think it's 13. But if your collective pool of dice that haven't been allocated add up to 13 or more, then your highest level dice basically does one. He jogs on. So you can get more workers in the game, but it's that whole thing. Do I want more workers when I've got a whole load of dice that I haven't allocated yet, and I could risk losing one, which then obviously makes the action inefficient. So yeah, it's a real kind of puzzle. But the other thing you can do in the game is you can bump the other players' dice, and when you bump their dice, they have to roll it. And again, they're praying for kind of lowish numbers half the time. So let's take a look at the board. Let's jump in to the board. I think this is probably a prototype. So I think this is a good representation of the board and kind of what's going on. So the game's kind of broken into 4 different areas, and these are the 4 factions in the game, and they will all produce different resources that you're going to need, whether it's food, whether it's this kind of cloud stuff, material, this, that, or the other, gold, etc. And you're going to need those resources to be able to do pretty much anything in the game, and those resources are there to kind of help build these tiles, which is one of your main ways of getting these authority tokens out onto the board. So the way you win this game is much like Scythe. If you've played Scythe before and you're trying to get your 6th achievement star out, this is very similar in that you're trying to get your authority tokens out, and when you've got all of them done, you win, and it basically ends the game. So very much a classic Stonemaier feel in how it triggers the end game. So you're going to need those resources to build those tiles to do that. So you've got these little meeples there, which kind of go down these tunnels, so you can help push that meeple to kind of excavate through, and it connects the 2 factions together, and it allows you to get more and more kind of a better resource exchange as they get access to different resources as well, so get you a bit more efficiency in what's going on. The other thing that you could do as well is that you level up these factions, so you get more allegiant to the factions, and it pushes these tokens up for everybody, and that can have benefits along the way, which helps you play these cards down. So you'll start with specific cards that are of the actual people in this dystopian hell, and they will help you to basically give you their abilities and powers. So the more that you can push the factions up, and the more you can get those cards down, the more that you can start bending and twisting the rules and create yourself a little engine there, which is always good fun to do. As I mentioned at the beginning, you have kind of a card that once per game you'll make a decision. Do you want to push the dystopian regime, or do you want to break free and do something? So I think one of them says choose love, or choose something, or burn books, or read books. I don't know. But you kind of do that. And I mean, the premise of the game is pretty simple. The premise of the game is it is what it is. You're trying to race the efficiency puzzle to get those stars out, and away you go. And I think I enjoy my play of Euphoria. It is of its age. It does feel like it came out in 2013, and I think there are a lot, better games out there for sure. I know this is going for an essential edition at the moment, which is actually cleaning the board up, and I think that's one of my main criticisms of the game is basically how the board UI works and the UI UX, because it just feel like things are just kind of everywhere. And I've seen the Essential Edition board. It's very neatly laid out. It's more methodical, and I think that will be an easier experience for players to grasp. So do check out videos on that if you haven't seen that already. Yeah, here we go. So I've just jumped into the Essential Edition, and you can already see that you've got, these are the factions, Icarus and Euphoria, Wastelanders and Subterrans, and everything's kind of laid out into their rows, and it's just easier. And what it also gives you is player boards. So where I mentioned around the intelligence, that's actually tracked on your own player board rather than this kind of communal track, which is a bit awkward to get to if you're different sides of the board. So this is a much better layout of the game for sure. But how did I think? I like I said, I enjoyed it. I didn't love it. I didn't hate it. I thought it was pretty good. And I'd play it again. I'd like to play it at higher player counts to see how it goes. But yeah, I wanted to talk about it because, again, it's a golden oldie. It's one that kind of passed me by. I basically jumped into Scythe. I think it's my first Stonemaier experience, and I completely miss Euphoria. And I'm glad to kind of go back and rectify that. But yeah, that's Euphoria. So I think it's time to move on to the next segment of the podcast, which is Centre of the Table. So Centre of the Table is where we're going to talk about our core topic of the show. And as I said right at the beginning, the topic is my top 10 games that made me fall in love with the hobby. So let me first explain what I actually mean by that. Do I mean these are the top 10 best games that I've ever played? No, I don't mean that. These are the top 10 games that kind of sit in a very special place that either got me into the hobby or helped me kind of evolve in the journey of the hobby. And you know, those are the kind of special games that made me go, wow, I didn't realize board games could do this. And I've kind of picked these 10 to kind of represent maybe different stages of my board gaming experience. And as this is, episode 1, I thought, what a great way to start the podcast. Get you to know me a little bit better if you don't know me, if you're new to the channel and pod. But those, from Who's Done Is It Anyway, will no doubt probably know most of these, and I've probably talked about them before. So apologies, guys, if you have picked that up. But hey, it's always good to go back. So I'm going to run through my top 10. And just, I'm not going to go into the deep mechanics of the games, but I'm going to talk about more why they sit where they sit, why they are quite special to me. So let's jump straight into number 10. So let's jump into the first game, which is number 10. So number 10 is XCOM the board game. And XCOM the board game was my first probably major game that got me into the hobby back in 2015, 2016. So not long, pretty much after it came out. And yeah, XCOM, I picked XCOM up on a whim. I was basically looking to entertain friends that were coming down, visiting us for the weekend, and I just wanted to do something different. So I picked up XCOM. And it arrived because I played the video game quite a few times. I know the IP, I love the IP, and I thought, hey, why not? If I'm going to go and play a board game about something, it's an IP that I care about, right? So I picked it up and it landed. And basically, XCOM was published by Fantasy Flight Games. I think it's out of print now. Yeah, I didn't even know who that publisher was, but this is my first foray into Fantasy Flight. So in there, you get your booklet, your catalogue, and you go, ooh, what's all of this? And you start to learn about all these other games that FFG do, and there you go. But going back to XCOM, those that don't know it, it's a real-time stress management simulator. I think it's the best way to kind of explain it. Very quickly, you've got the board, which looks like the whole world map in the middle, and you all assume 4 different roles from chief engineer, chief scientist, and basically the army dude, and the commander that basically is the chief accountant, and you're all working together in 2 stages of the game. You've got a real-time aspect and you've got a turn-based aspect, and the real-time is where the stress is. So it's like you've got an app, so it's an app-driven game. And you've got a timer of 2, maybe, not even probably 2 minutes. I can't remember. It's really quick. And it's asking you, saying, right, draw a crisis card. Right, next, allocate budget for this. Next, do this. Next, do that. Pick your research. Do that. And it's very much, the longer you leave it, the app knows that you haven't moved things along, and it's kind of tracking the bad stuff if that happens. But you're making decisions fast, furious, and quick. And it is stressful. And then once you've done that, you go to like this resolution phase, and then you resolve all of the crap mistakes that you've made, and hope that you're going to get through it. But yeah, UFOs are appearing in the world. You need to launch interceptors in there to take them out, much like the video game. And you'll have little army dudes that you'll send out on missions, and hopefully you'll kind of get there. But yeah, I'm not going to go into the main game. It's it's a definitely unique experience, and not one I would ever recommend introducing new players to, but I did, but I didn't know any better, so bad me. But yeah, I mean, we had fun with this. I remember my first play of this, I was blown away, absolutely blown away that board games could do this, and yeah, this facilitated this experience for me, and honestly, I think I spent the whole weekend just smiling, going, wow. And I was looking through that Fantasy Flight catalogue, and that's where it took me to number 9. So number 9 is Mansions of Madness, but not 2nd edition, 1st edition. And the reason why I got Mansions of Madness is because from that Fantasy Flight catalogue, guess what? This was one of the options. And I was like, oh God, it's like a haunted house game. And I feel like I really want to explore this. And it had exploration. It had like Cthulhu-esque, cultists and monsters and beasts and worms and all that kind of stuff, miniatures. And it also had kind of puzzles that you could do to unlock doors and do all sorts of stuff. And I thought this looks extremely thematic and really kind of helped, I think it's probably my second board game purchase after XCOM. And it came in this big chunky box, and I was thinking, wow, this thing is so huge. Like, how am I going to play this? Who am I going to play this with? And I think this is the point where I started to get games that I couldn't basically play with my family because they weren't really interested in games in the same way. And I was just like at the entry point of just exploring it. But the reason why I like first edition, and actually I'll die on the hill, and this is probably a unpopular opinion, is I think I preferred the first edition to the second edition, Mansions of Madness. And I know second edition is better. I think if you're getting this game new, don't get first edition, get a second edition. The second edition has an app. It helps control the story, the bad guys, the narrative, and all of that kind of stuff. And it does a lot of the heavy lifting, so you and your friends can just play as the investigators and do the scenarios, right? But I kind of miss the first edition because it allows one of the players to be the git, right? And that was usually me. And it's the one that knew the rules the most. So when I founded our gaming group, around 10 years ago, I basically managed to get a few people around to play this, and we had a blast. And I love just playing the bad guy. I just think it's fun. You play as the house, or you play as the one of the ancient ones or whatever, and you're spawning bad guys, or you're laying traps if they go into certain rooms. And you're kind of there with your screen, and you're doing all the cool stuff. And I think that kind of one versus many aspect was this was very much my first experience. But I'd be interested to see what you think. Whether you think the first edition is better than second, call me wrong, I don't mind, but this is just my opinion. There's something about the first edition. I think it's nostalgia, right? I think it's just something that I really, really enjoy. So next one, we're going to Star Wars Rebellion, and you can see what's going on. There's another Fantasy Flight Games. There's a pattern emerging here. It's pretty much the theme. I do deviate from it though, I promise. So Star Wars Rebellion is a 1v1 kind of asymmetric skirmish game where one of you plays as the Rebels and one of you plays as the Empire. And this is the most Star Wars board game that ever exists. And it kind of encapsulates the original trilogy into a board game and allows you to play it out in the way that you want to do it. And now that doesn't mean you're on rails. It does reference certain aspects of the films, but you can actually play it your way. So if you're Empire, you can actually build 2 Death Stars. I mean, how cool is that? You just build 2. And I'm telling you, when you're the Rebel player and you see 2 Death Stars on the map, you're worried. You're concerned because planets are blowing up left, right, and center, which is generally not good. So the game kind of pictures you as the Empire, as this, you've got the resources, you've got so many units, you've got Star Destroyers, you've got Death Stars, you've got all of this stuff, and it's spread out on this big, massive map. So maybe I'll show you a little picture of this. The map is actually 2 boards you stick together, and all of the planets are there, etc. And the Empire just has stuff everywhere. And then if you're the Rebel side, you have little teeny bitty units that are just scattered in a Rebel base and somewhere else. And here's the key, right? The win condition for the Empire is to find the Rebel base and blow it up, right? And the win condition for the Rebel player is to meet the turn marker and the reputation track at the same time. So either biding your time or you're doing objectives to kind of speed that up as you go. And it's a cat and mouse game. Like, as Rebels, you're secretly picking a base that the Empire don't know, and it's on one of these planets, and you're just hoping, misdirecting, and doing all these kind of things to basically say, don't go there, don't look there. And it's tense, and it's epic, and it's just such a good experience. And the reason why I wanted to pick this is a good close friend of mine who sadly passed away, bless him, many years ago. This is one of his favorite games, and we used to play that together, and I still play this today. I literally, last night I was on Gaming Rules, Paul Grogan's channel, playing Star Wars Rebellion on May the 4th, because why not? What else is there to play on Star Wars Day? So I really enjoy this game. I think it's probably my favourite 1v1 game. I think it beats War of the Ring for me. That's because Lord of the Rings isn't an IP that... I like Lord of the Rings, don't get me wrong, and please don't hate on me. But Star Wars just edges it for me. But I am wanting to play Dune War for Arrakis, which is another 1v1 game, because I love the Dune universe and I want to see how that does in comparison. So that's Star Wars Rebellion. So let's jump to the next one, which is number 7. So number 7 is Scythe from Stonemaier Games, not a Fantasy Flight game. So Scythe's probably on most people's lists, right? I think if they're doing this kind of game, Scythe will appear a lot. And again, it's kind of its age. It's 2016, it's 10 years old. And it's a game where it's kind of set in an alternate 1920s style universe where, you know, after the First World War, things are kind of diverging in a different path, and you're kind of playing this alternate history where on the board you've got in the middle this called the factory, and it's producing all this technology, and you're representing one of the factions, which either represent real countries in the real world, but they're not obviously named those, and you're kind of going into a resource management efficiency game. It looks like a dudes on a map war game, and Scythe it is not, and I think that's what most people realize when they play it. It's like, oh, you got these big mechs, like you can see in the cover here, lots of mechs doing different things. You know, if I just fire up this picture, you can kind of see some of the mechs here and some of the components. But yeah, basically it's an efficiency race, and you have 6 achievement stars, as I was mentioning earlier when I was talking about Euphoria. You've got 6 achievement stars, and when you place your 6th one down, the game ends. You might not win, but it ends. And there are many conditions there. But I think the thing that I really liked about it, the thing that made me go wow, was is just the fact that it's so snappy, and the overlapping turns, the fact that you can do a top action and a bottom action, and when you're doing the bottom action, the next player can do the top action, and suddenly you're zipping around the table, even on higher player count games. And I think there are many modern games that can learn a thing or two about how Scythe implements that turn structure. But yeah, some of it's dated, but it's just a fun game to play, and I think we've had a blast with it. And one of the reasons why it also blew me away is because the Rise of Fenris campaign is, it's just brilliant. And guess what? We're going to do it soon again, which I cannot wait to do. So I'll talk about that at another time. So that was number 7. So let's jump to number 6, which is Lorenzo Il Magnifico. And the reason why this one hits the list for me is it's probably my first mid-weight Euro that really kind of blew me away. And you know, it's one of the beige games out there, and you know, its theme is whatever, but mechanically this game was doing something so unique. You know, I'm going to jump to this picture here. I think gives you a good view of the board. You've got these towers here which has these cards on, and essentially all you're doing each kind of round of the game is you're rolling these dice. They represent the different color workers that you have with the stickers on the top. So everyone's got their color cylinders, which are your workers, and then it'll have an orange dice or a white or a black dice on there, and that represents the power level of the workers for everybody. So if anyone rolls crap, everyone moans because you've all got crap influence that you can kind of use for the turn. And also you kind of got this poor cousin. You kind of got the poor cousin of the family member that no one likes, which is level 0. It's always 0, so you have to kind of buff them up all the way. And you're basically getting cards from these towers, and there's lots of rules about if it's occupied or not, which I won't go into. And then you're getting these cards, and it's basically building up this engine. And you're building buildings, you're claiming territories, you're enlisting characters, you're going on ventures, and you're doing all these kind of things, and you're building this cool engine. So by the end, you're just literally like resource conversion and doing some combos and all sorts of cool stuff. And for me, this is kind of like my first foray into the Euros. And like from here, I've been playing games like Trois, Been playing, Glenmore 2, and probably getting into the Uwe Rosenberg stuff like Agricola and Feast for Odin and all these other games that basically beige and cubey, which is pretty much really good to kind of play. So yeah, Lorenzo still sits in a nice spot for me, up there on my list for sure. And with the expansion Houses of Renaissance, it's just peak midweight Euro game. And if you've not played Lorenzo, please give it a go. It is tight. It is a tough game to play in that respect, where you can't do everything that you want to do. But my God, is it a bloody good game. So Lorenzo was my first Euro. So let's move on to the next one, which is number 5. So my number 5 is board games that made me love the hobby, is On Mars. And On Mars was my first Vital Lacerda game, and probably one of the most heaviest games that I've experienced at that time. And I remember going in with kind of a bit of a trepidation, because at this time I've heard about Lacerda games, and they have a reputation about them as being really heavy, really complex games, and I've always wanted to try one, but never really got round to trying it. Eagle Griffin Games do a fantastic production. Their big board games are a sight to behold. The components are brilliant. The cardboard's chunky, and it's really good to kind of get your hands on that stuff. But it is expensive. They're not the cheapest games out there. They are what they are. But a friend of mine basically bought a copy of On Mars, and we played it, and I just played it for the first time, and it blew me away. Just thought, this game was literally right up my street. The complexity of it, the way it made me think, the way that On Mars was very sandboxy in the fact that you had to do a bunch of actions, but you had to be on the right side of the planet, either in orbit or on the surface, to do certain things. And just what the game was trying to do, the way it was pushing and pulling me all over the place, and making this thing go white hot. I absolutely just adored this game, to the point where my friend actually didn't really enjoy it. Doesn't enjoy the Lacerda style games. He finds them too open and too sandboxy. He sold it to me, and I gladly purchased it. And this was the first kind of foray into what I call the Lacerda verse, and allowed me to buy other games like Lisboa, which actually Lisboa is probably my favourite Lacerda game, if you're wondering, and I think it beats On Mars, but I still love On Mars. And the reason why On Mars sits on this list is because it was the gateway into the heavy games. So yeah, that's number 5. And then keeping on trend, so number 4 is Anachrony, and when I say on trend, I mean heavy games. So Anachrony is a game from one of my favourite publishers, Mindclash Games, and designed by David Turczi. And this is actually my first experience of David Turczi's design. And I couldn't have loved this game anymore. I'd kind of heard about it when it first came out, and I didn't really know much. I was still in my Fantasy Flight Games bubble, and I didn't really want to venture out too much into different publishers. I just kind of kept where it's safe and warm and cozy. And I think I went to a UK Games Expo. I ended up watching a playthrough video of Anachrony, and I just went, wow, this game is cool. And it's got time travel in it, which for me, I'm in. Like, if you put time travel in anything, I'm a massive Back to the Future fan. Hello, there's a DeLorean here for a reason. I basically, I'm in. And the way that this worker placement game works, I'm going to have to show you. You've got basically these exosuits, and you put your workers in the exosuits and you slot them in. You do have to get the exosuits expansion, and you should. It just makes the game really pop and make it better. And you put the workers inside, and then if you go into the main board, you have to go in the exosuit because the world is poisonous and you can't go out there. And it's just that whole, I'm putting workers on my player board, and I'm putting workers in exosuits to go outside. It's like a 2-tier worker placement game where you're building more buildings and creating this engine where you don't actually need to go to the capital, as it were. You can kind of stay on your player board and do many things. And the fact you can borrow from yourself and then pay yourself back at a later time, which is very cool. And Anachrony, still to this group, our gaming group, will play Anachrony now, and with the Fractures of Time expansion, It is bloody fantastic. I can't recommend Anachrony enough. So then on to number 3. So number 3 is Game of Thrones. We're back in Fantasy Flight Games territory again. So Game of Thrones has a lot to answer for. Game of Thrones 2nd edition pretty much launched my gaming group. Without this game, I don't think we would have the gaming group we have today. Game of Thrones is a massive skirmishy war game where you play the houses of Westeros, and if you get the Mother of Dragons expansion, you can play with the Essos board and play as the Targaryens, but you're playing as like the Starks, the Baratheons, the Lannisters, the Tyrells, and all of those kind of houses, and each house is represented by their character cards, which is what you use in combat. And the premise of the game is simple: get 7 castles. Literally get 7 castles on the board. So if you look at the board here, you've got the Westeros, which is beautifully laid out, and you've got this lovely marble pieces. Like even back in the day, like when this game came out, that this wasn't standard. You didn't have these kind of these components that were standard. They were a lovely marble effect. And you're trying to get these castles, which are just printed on the board. You just got to control them. That's all you've got to do. But the problem is there's not enough of them, and you're constant in contention with the other players on the board. And it has this beautiful order mechanic where you're placing order tokens face down simultaneously at the same time, and then you reveal, and this is where everyone usually swears because they go, "Oh, I thought you weren't going to invade," and like, "Yes, I am." Or you can kind of pretend to have alliances with people to support them in a battle that they're going to have, and then backstab them and do something else. So it's just, honestly, it creates it creates friends, but also ruins friendships in the best possible way. And this game, I really wish they'd do a 3rd edition of it. I really wish they'd kind of revamp it a little bit, smooth some of the quirky edges of the game, and kind of bring it into 2026. But this game's always going to sit high on the list. We still play this once a year. It still comes out, but this founded the gaming groups. It's always going to have a special place, and the fact that it brings a large group of people together in that experience, and it is a bit of an eventy game. It can take long if you dawdle and you don't focus on the game so much, but it's just bloody cool. It's just great fun. So that's Game of Thrones. Then on to our number 2, which is Imperium Classics. So the Imperium system. So again, another David Turczi design along with Nigel Buckle. And this one was published by Osprey. But Imperium has had many iterations now. We've got Imperium Classics, Legends, Horizons. Those are the 3. I own all 3 of them. The reason why Imperium's hit the list, I got late to the party on this. Came out in 2021. I think I picked up Imperium about maybe 2 years ago. And I bought it mainly to play solo. So I'm a big solo gamer as well. I do like to play with different members of the gaming group, big games, but I also like to play solo games. And this one, the way this worked mechanically, just, I don't know, it kind of tickled the right part of my brain, and it just made me go, wow, I can't believe this exists in the way it exists. So for those that don't know, Imperium is a deck builder. When you look at it, it doesn't look like much. You have a market of cards, just like a deck builder would. But you play as nations. You play as the Romans, the Celts, the Macedonians, the Scythians, and all sorts of different factions. And they've expanded that now, and I think there's like 30 of a variety of ones that are based on real history, and some that are kind of fantasy based, like the Arthurians and aliens. We can play as aliens, which is good fun. But the way this system works mechanically is, so you have a deck that's unique to your faction, and in that deck is basically when you deck out and when you cycle that deck, you'll take a card from a different deck called the development deck, and that goes into your discard and you shuffle. So every time you go round, you're pulling a card from, which is again unique to your faction, into your deck. And then when you deplete that, then you ascend from like a barbarian state to an empire. So you have another card on the side, which is like shows you what state you're in, and that helps you get certain cards from the market, or prevents you, depending on where you are. Because if you're barbarian state, you're not going to go for civilized cards because you're barbarians, right? But when you're an empire, you're not interested in the barbaric stuff. So it's a nice pivot in the kind of the midpoint in the game. But once you kind of ascend, which gives you another card. So for example, in Romans, you get Julius Caesar, bang, great stuff happens. then you can start developing. And this is the bit I really love, is that when you deck out again, you've got like your own personal shop of cards that you have to spend resources for to get those into the deck. And they are powerful. They are like really good. You hinge your whole strategy and how that works around those development cards. And again, the way that you kind of put cards into history, which pretty much means you're trashing it from the game, but you took it under your main nation card, and they can score you points as well. And they're just the way the mechanics in this game work, the way that you're, just a deck of cards makes you feel like you're starting off with this small settlement and building up this empire. And some of the nations are bonkers, and the fact you're chaining actions, you're building a tableau of really cool experiences and stories. I just could not love this game anymore. And it's not everyone's cup of tea. It's very kind of heavy for what it's doing. But again, like coming from a lot of those heavier games, it really starts to scratch that itch, right? And I just love this. I just fell in love with Imperium. I've played it so many times now, like 30, 40 times. And I'm nearly through all of the nations. I think I've got 2 more left. So I'm going to have to rectify that this year and finish those off. And what David's done and Nigel, what they've both done now is they're taking this system and moving it into different IPs, right? The latest one they've done is Star Trek Captain's Chair, which is one of my ultimate favourite games. And IP-wise, it's Star Trek. What's not to love, right? And it doesn't work exactly the same. They've changed different things because you have spaceships that warp to the neutral zone and different things like that. But the premise, the heart of the Imperial system, or the Imperium system rather, is there, and I just fell in love with that. And as a solo game, it's probably my go-to solo game where I want to just shut myself away for an hour or two and just scratch that itch and take a settlement from nothing to something. And recommend Imperium a lot. If you've not played it, check it out, check some playthroughs out, and see if you enjoy it. So then we go to our number 1. So number 1 is, of course, for me, it's Too Many Bones. And it's actually probably my number 1 board game, full stop. It's the game I have played, I think, nearly 90 times. I'm on my road to 100 plays of this game, which is a mad feat when you think about it, because each play can be about 4, 5, 6 hours long, depending on what scenarios and tyrants, which are the bosses, what you go up against. And don't know why this game. I don't know why I love this game. I passed on this game when it was released. I wasn't really that interested. Shut Up and Sit Down did a video on this, I think, not long after it released as well. And it just didn't grab me at the time. But yeah, it's not my go-to kind of theme. And usually it's sci-fi. It's usually space, to be honest. That's what I love. But Too Many Bones is, I don't know, it just does something so unique. And I don't know what happened on that particular week when I decided to take a punt and buy it, which is a bit of a punt because, Chip Theory Games is the publisher. They do a fantastic production. It's poker chips. Everything's poker chips and in neoprene. But it does mean it's expensive. It means that this game is probably going to last longer than we do. We will decompose long after the Earth, but Too Many Bones will live on. And yeah, you kind of basically have these gear locks, which are your kind of Nomi characters, and you'll pick your gear lock, and every one of them is uniquely different. They have a bunch of different dice, which are their skills, and they're completely different to one another, not even remotely the same. So every time you play a gear lock, it's a different game you're playing. And the fact you take this gear lock from being very weak, very underpowered, and you progress them through this one-shot style system, and yeah, you basically kind of build them up and throw lots of dice, hence Too Many Bones, and you're just bashing enemies, leveling up, getting better, getting more powerful, and you're getting ready to kind of go up against the big bad. And then you have lots of fights, and this thing here is the battle mat, and you actually only have 16 positions on this battle mat. Which is not a lot, so you don't tend to do a lot of moving around, and this thing becomes a puzzle. The way that you kind of win Too Many Bones is by understanding how the enemies work, their skills, how they're going to order in what initiative order and make the best of that situation to kill the right things or position play and things like that. And I love the battles in here. And when you pull the battles off in everything's kind of against the odds and you manage to do it, you just feel like a bloody hero. And Too Many Bones will always sit as number one. And the reason why, not only in my list of games that made me love the hobby, obviously I love it, it's probably one of my favorite games, but during COVID, during lockdown, this is what got me through it. This game I played solo so many times, which is why my play count is so high. All I did was play Too Many Bones and I never got bored of it. And even after nearly 90 plays, I'm still not bored of it. And I just love playing it. So yeah, as you can tell, I'm gushing over it. But Chip Theory Games is another one of my favourite publishers. I like a lot of their games. Fans of Cloudspire and Burn Cycle and Wrath and other aspects as well, and Hoplomachus. So yeah, I really love Chip Theory and what they do. I think they are a very unique publisher. A lot of the things they do probably don't make much business sense, but as consumers, I just love the wackiness of their products and the fact that they just have the ability to have fun, which is great. So there you go. That's my top 10 games that basically I love about the hobby and that got me into the hobby or unlocked the hobby in different ways. And I'd really love to hear what you've got to say about your list. Share them with me. Drop them in the comments. And yeah, I'd love to see what kind of got you into the hobby space. So there we go. So let's move on to the next segment. Which is what's hot and what's not. So this is where I'm going to drop into the BGG homepage and I'm going to look at the hotness. Here we go. These are the hotness as of today. So every time we do an episode, these will change. And I'm just going to give you my initial thoughts about the hotness and whether I've heard of these games, whether I think they're going to be good, or yeah, everything in between really. So the first one here is Lands of Evershade. I've actually heard of Lands of Evershade before, and it's basically by Awakening Realms. Yes, it's basically an RPG style game, and the thing that I have been kind of attracted to, I'm just going to scroll down, are the player boards. Actually, I love a player board. I love a real good dual layer player board that kind of handles lots of cool stuff. And this player board does look amazing in kind of how that works. And I'm going to scroll over here as well. And you've kind of got your equipment here. Everything kind of thematically makes sense. You put your helmet there, your armor there, weapons on each sides and different sorts of things. And yeah, it just looks pretty cool. But as I said, as a fantasy game, it's not something I'm drawn to immediately. But I am intrigued about how that goes for sure. Okay, so number 2, Dark Pact. Not heard of this, but I think Shut Up and Sit Down, I've just dropped a video on this one. So I know nothing about this. I'm not a big kind of Cthulhu style, lover. So being cultists and things like that, it's just not normally my theme. So yeah, it's probably one I'll check out just because Shut Up and Sit Down have done it, and I tend to watch some of those videos and see what kind of happens. But yeah, that's Dark Pact. Don't know anything about it. Maybe I'll have to check that one out. Now, Rolling Deep I do know a little bit about, so I'm going to jump into this one. So Rolling Deep appeared on my social media feed like a lot of games do. Just it appeared there. I was doom scrolling one night and this Cuphead style art just came up on the screen and I was like, what is this? What's this all about? And if you just quickly share off what this looks like, yeah, you've kind of got this journey to the center of the earth theme, but drawn in a Cuphead style. But what attracted me to this was the words Balatro. Okay, so Balatro is a video game, a roguelike poker video game where you start with a kind of a poker deck and you enhance that deck through getting jokers, which twists up pretty much how the cards will work and play. And you're playing poker hands to basically generate the best score that you could possibly get to beat these blinds, which get ever increasingly more difficult. And it's just so much fun. If you haven't played it, just download it. It's like £5, maybe £10. Just download it. And now this apparently is Balatro with dice. So that immediately had my attention. And yeah, I think you basically do a roguelike run. You have your dice, which represent the different explorers. And you're kind of going deeper and deeper into the journey of the centre of the earth. And yeah, trying to get the best score you can. And I think as you play, you unlock things so that when you play again, you can basically take advantage of the things and the runs that you've done before. I'm keeping my eye on this one. I'm definitely intrigued. I think they're doing a crowdfund in June or July. I'm definitely on the list to check it out. So yeah, if that sounds like your jam, then come along, check it out. Well, Eternal Decks, I just talked about that. So I don't need to say anything about it. There's a reason why it's in number 4. It does pop up on the hotness every now and then. People do talk about it, and it's probably just got back in stock in the UK. Maybe that helps. But yeah, Eternal Decks is number 4. Now, World Order, number 5. World Order is Hegemonic Project Games, who also did Hegemony. And Hegemony I really enjoy. Only again recently got back into Hegemony, having got my own copy. But World Order is their kind of sequel, which is a bit lighter, but more kind of you managing a country. So you play as the United States or the EU or China or Russia, and you're kind of doing area control across the world. And it's got deck building elements in it. And I've played this a few times. I played a game of it last year, and I've also played a demo of it at, I think, UK Games Expo. And again, had a lot of fun with this. I think this has got a lot of promise. I think I prefer Hegemony because it's more about the social classes and pitching against each other. But I did like what this was doing, and I like the fact that you can curate your deck of cards to kind of what you want to do, whether you want to kind of go for economic wins or warfare and all those kind of things. It has some cool chonky tanks, which everybody loves a chonky tank, and yeah, that's kind of in there as well. So World Order, yeah, want to keep your eye out, I think. So that's pretty much that. So yeah, that's the what's hot, what's not. That's just a little review of the top 5. I'm not going to go for the whole hotness there. So yeah, okay. So let's talk about the next segment, which is just about to play. So this is all things that I'm kind of excited for or looking forward to playing. That's coming up in the gaming calendar. So what have we got here on my notes down on the side? So I mentioned it earlier, the Scythe Rise of Fenris campaign. I've been itching to get another Rise of Fenris campaign ongoing since we played it about, I don't know, 6 years ago. And we've managed to get 5 people together who are committed to do the 7 or 8 games that are needed to do the campaign. And I can't wait. I had a blast doing it the first time. I'm looking forward to getting more Scythe to the table, as I know the other guys are. And yeah, I think we start in a few weeks. So yeah, wish us luck on that. And last time I did awful. I've never been that great at Scythe as a game. I'm hoping I might do better this time. Fingers crossed. The other thing that I'm doing is playing March of the Ants. So March of the Ants is a little surprise game. It's a 4X game, but instead of spaceships and taking over colonies, you are basically a colony of ants taking over the garden. And I quite like the fact they've kind of turned that 4X genre on its head and done it around ants in the garden, just basically ripping each other to pieces. And it's a very cool game, and in the way it works with its turn structure, in the fact that you do an action and your neighbours get to do a reaction to your action. So you're always constantly engaged. You're always doing something. And yeah, and we got some friends coming around to play that as well. So yeah, looking forward to do some more March of the Ants coming soon. So yeah. And I think that takes us to the last play. So we are at the end of episode 1. I just want to thank everybody for listening, new and old Who's Turners as well, that have come in to join. I hope you enjoyed the episode. I hope you enjoy the new format and how it works. And yeah, feedback is always key. I always ask for it, and I really appreciate everything you do. If you want to get engaged, drop some comments in the YouTube video if you're watching, or if you're listening, then jump onto our socials on Facebook and Instagram and all those kind of stuff. You know what to do. And I really ask, if you're watching this on YouTube as well, hit the sub. We're a small channel at the moment. We've just started off, and really appreciate your support to kind of keep us going and get those subscribers up and get notified when we kind of release new episodes and things like that. So yeah. And I think the only thing left to say is just remember, you only grow old when you stop playing. Take care.